Sometimes the scariest things are hidden right in plain sight. What if I told you that the games you thought were all fun and no fear are actually hiding terrifying secrets? Hey guys, I'm Buds, and today we're uncovering 10 games that are secretly horror. These aren't your typical blood-soaked, monster-filled nightmares, but they'll get under your skin in ways you never expected. Stick around for number 1. It's a mind-bender you won't forget. Let's get into it. Here's a game that deserves to kick off this list. Outer Wilds is a cosmic mystery wrapped in a time-looping adventure, but don't be fooled by its cheerful veneer. On the surface, you're an intergalactic archaeologist, exploring a whimsical solar system full of quirky planets and charming discoveries. But dig deeper, literally, and you'll unearth a chilling story about existential dread. The game doesn't jump scare you, instead, it quietly unsettles you with its eerie soundtrack, abandoned alien ruins, and the ever-looming supernova that resets the loop every 22 minutes. Each trip to the farthest reaches of space feels peaceful at first, until you find yourself stranded in a pitch-black cavern with no idea how to escape. Add to that the stark realization of how small you are in the grand cosmic scheme, and Outer Wilds becomes more than a game. It's an existential horror experience that'll have you questioning the nature of life itself. If you thought the ocean was scary in real life, wait until you dive into Subnautica. At first glance, it seems like a serene survival game. You crash land on an alien planet, and your primary goals are gathering resources, building habitats, and exploring coral reefs. Sounds like a peaceful underwater escape, right? Wrong. The deeper you go, the darker it gets, both literally and figuratively. Once you descend into the ocean's uncharted depths, you'll encounter bioluminescent predators and towering leviathans that seem straight out of a nightmare. The music shifts from tranquil to haunting, and the sheer isolation of being miles below the surface makes you feel vulnerable in ways most games can't replicate. And then there's the silent terror of hearing a massive roar in the darkness, with no idea which direction it came from. Subnautica doesn't just make you fear the creatures, it makes you fear the unknown. Here's a game that flips the script on everything you think you know about visual novels. Doki Literature Club lures you in with pastel-colored visuals and a seemingly innocent high school dating sim premise. But as you progress, cracks begin to form in its cheerful facade, and things quickly spiral into psychological horror territory. The game is packed with disturbing themes like mental illness, obsession, and manipulation. It even goes meta, breaking the fourth wall by corrupting game files and making your computer part of its unsettling narrative. What's truly terrifying is how it weaponizes your expectations. Just when you think you're safe, it yanks the rug out from under you with an emotional gut punch or a sudden jump scare. This isn't just horror, it's a psychological experiment disguised as a game, and it's brilliant. This is one of those games that doesn't need monsters to scare you. Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice follows the journey of Senua, a Celtic warrior battling her own psychosis while journeying through Norse mythology's version of hell. While the game is often praised for its stunning visuals and innovative combat, it's the psychological horror elements that make it unforgettable. Using binaural audio, the game creates a deeply immersive experience where voices whisper, taunt, and manipulate you in a way that's both unsettling and profoundly impactful. You're never sure what's real, and that's the point. The blurred line between reality and hallucination mirrors Senua's struggle, pulling you into her mind in ways that make you feel both empathetic and uneasy. This is a game that scares you not with monsters, but with the weight of your own thoughts.
Get up. Get up and fight!
Minimalist, eerie, and downright disturbing, Inside takes the simple idea of moving from left to right and turns it into a horrifying journey you'll never forget. Developed by the creators of Limbo, this indie darling drops you into a bleak dystopian world without explanation or dialogue. You're a nameless boy running through an oppressive industrial landscape filled with chilling mysteries. The lack of context makes everything feel wrong, like you've stumbled into someone else's nightmare. The game's horror doesn't rely on cheap tricks. Instead, it uses its haunting atmosphere, unsettling sound design, and brutal visuals to keep you constantly uneasy. One moment, you're sneaking past robotic guards. The next, you're diving underwater to escape a ghostly creature that wants nothing more than to drag you to your doom. And then there's the story, or rather, the absence of one. The game leaves much to your imagination, but the imagery speaks volumes. Strange experiments, mindless drones, and an ending so bizarre it practically demands an hour-long existential crisis. It all comes together to create a terrifyingly ambiguous experience. By the time the credits roll, you're left questioning everything, including your role in the game's haunting world. On the surface, Prey looks like a straightforward sci-fi action game, aliens, space stations, and plenty of guns. But peel back the layers and you'll find a horror experience that thrives on paranoia and tension. Set aboard Talos Y, a luxurious space station orbiting the moon, Prey puts you in the shoes of Morgan Yu, a scientist trying to survive an alien outbreak. But these aren't your typical aliens. The mimics are the real stars of the show. These shape-shifting nightmares can disguise themselves as ordinary objects, a chair, a coffee mug, or even a roll of toilet paper. Walking into a room filled with clutter becomes an exercise in terror as you nervously wonder which everyday item is about to lunge at you. And it's not just the mimics. The towering nightmares that stalk you later in the game will leave you breathless. The horror is amplified by the isolation of space. The corridors of Talos are eerily silent, broken only by the distant groans of the station or the sudden shriek of a mimic revealing itself. The game's crafting system, resource management, and psychological twists add layers of dread, making Prey one of the most intelligent and nerve-wracking horror experiences hidden in plain sight. At first glance, Frostpunk might seem like your standard city-building survival game, but dig deeper, and you'll find a tale of desperation and moral decay that's as chilling as the eternal winter it's set in. You're tasked with building a city to keep survivors alive during a devastating ice age. But survival comes at a cost. The game forces you to make impossible choices. Do you enact child labor laws to keep the generators running? Or do you risk the entire colony freezing to death by holding onto your morality? Each decision chips away at your humanity, and the more you compromise, the more you realize the horror isn't just the freezing wasteland outside. It's the society you're shaping. The haunting visuals amplify the oppressive tone. Your city's glowing generator is surrounded by icy darkness, a fragile bubble of warmth in a hostile world. The music, too, is a masterclass in building tension, transitioning from melancholic to downright harrowing as conditions worsen. By the end, you're not just playing a game, you're grappling with what it means to lead, to survive, and to lose pieces of yourself along the way. Frostpunk is a slow descent into moral and emotional horror that will leave you questioning your choices long after you turn off the game. TheForest begins as a straightforward survival game. You're the lone survivor of a plane crash on a mysterious island, tasked with finding food, shelter, and your missing son. But as night falls, the idyllic island reveals its true nature, a horrifying land inhabited by cannibalistic mutants. What sets TheForest apart is how it blends survival mechanics with psychological terror. The mutants aren't your average enemies. They're intelligent, stalking you silently during the day and ambushing your camp at night. They'll retreat if outnumbered, regroup, and attack when you're most vulnerable. Each encounter feels personal, like the mutants are studying you just as much as you're studying them. Then there are the caves. Oh, the caves! Descending into these dark, claustrophobic tunnels is an exercise in pure terror. Armed with only a flashlight, you'll face grotesque creatures and labyrinthine paths that feel like they're designed to swallow you whole. Add to that the eerie realization that the mutants may not be the biggest threat on the island, and the forest becomes a gripping tale of survival and paranoia that refuses to let you breathe. Set in a grim cyberpunk future, Observer combines the oppressive atmosphere of a dystopian world with the creeping dread of psychological horror. You play as Daniel Lazarski, a neural detective tasked with hacking into people's minds to uncover the truth behind a mysterious murder. But diving into someone's psyche is far from a routine task. It's a descent into their deepest fears and darkest memories. The mind-hacking sequences are where the game truly shines, or rather, terrifies. Each one feels like stepping into a surreal nightmare where nothing makes sense. Hallways stretch endlessly, rooms shift when you're not looking, and bizarre, haunting imagery assaults your senses. The game plays with your perception of reality, making you question what's real and what's part of the madness. But the horror isn't confined to the hacking sequences. The world of Observer is a bleak, neon-lit dystopia filled with decaying apartments, oppressive silence, and unsettling NPCs. Every corner of the game feels alive with dread, from the flickering lights to the distorted voices on the other end of the line. It's a slow-burn psychological thriller that lingers in your mind long after you've unplugged. Soma isn't just a horror game, it's an existential crisis wrapped in a sci-fi thriller. Set in an underwater research facility, the game initially feels like a traditional survival experience. You explore the dark, claustrophobic corridors of Pathos 2, avoiding monstrous AI creations that want to end you. But as the story unfolds, Soma reveals itself to be something much deeper and far more unsettling. The true horror of Soma lies in its themes. The game asks profound questions about identity, consciousness, and what it means to be human. Can a digital copy of your mind truly be you? What happens when the line between man and machine blurs beyond recognition? The monsters, while terrifying, are secondary to the existential dread that creeps in as you progress. Every encounter feels designed to unnerve you. The oppressive sound design and haunting visuals make you feel trapped, isolated, and small. By the time you reach the game's jaw-dropping conclusion, you'll be left questioning not just the game, but your own understanding of existence. It's a masterpiece of psychological and philosophical horror that lingers long after the credits roll. And that's a wrap! Who knew these games could be so terrifying under the surface? Which one caught you off guard the most? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Good Game Explorer, and hit that bell icon for more surprising gaming lists. Until next time, keep exploring and keep your flashlight handy. You never know what's lurking in the shadows.